Hey there, my name is Danny Leibrandt. In this video, we're going to be talking all about local SEO. So everything from building your website to optimizing your Google Business profile to getting backlinks to your website. And I personally worked with dozens of pest control companies and can tell you guys this stuff really works. So if you're looking to grow your pest control company with SEO, then this video is for you. Now let's jump in.
One of the first things I wanted to cover with the audience here is how to set up a website for pest control. And I guess one of the main questions is how important is a website for pest control? Maybe we should answer that one first, is really how important is the website for a pest control company?
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Jake. And I will say that having a website is incredibly important. You can think of it almost as like your digital storefront. So when you think about having an actual physical business that you have people walking by and, oh, okay, hey, look, that's Julie's Bakery or whatever. It's Panera Bread. It might be a bigger chain. But this is how people know you. This is how people kind of land on your business and then get to know more about you. So for, again, these other local businesses, they see it, it might seem nice. Oh, it's a bakery. Oh, it's a coffee shop. Oh, it's a pizza place. Like, okay, I'll walk in there. And that's kind of the same with your website as well, is that people will do a search, and they might do a search for pest control near me, or they might even do a search for your actual site, and they get there, and then that is them like walking into the store. And when they get into the store, what do they see? If someone lands on your website, or let's actually take the analogy further, if someone walked into your physical storefront and they saw that it was a complete mess, that there are boxes everywhere, it's totally dirty, your employees are like wearing ragged clothes and such, then you'd probably not want to go in that place. You probably would not want to purchase anything from them. And that's kind of the same way you can think about your website. So when someone comes on your website, you want to make sure that it's presentable, that it also matches your brand. And that's something that we've been talking about lately of how important branding is. We want to make sure that that branding is not only on your truck, on your logo, on these other things, but that it's also on your website and that your website looks really good. And I know that this is actually people kind of talk about this too much, and I think there's kind of this back and forth between like SEO versus design, but we really actually need both. I think you really should have a great looking website, and this is something Jonas talks about, of having a premium brand, and a big part of that is having a premium looking website. So that is more so the design aspect, but then there's a whole nother aspect of your website actually potentially making you money, of ranking on keywords and such.
Yep. So that actually leads to my next question is like, what are the actual components that you need on the website? Like, what do the pages look like? What are the buttons look like? What do people actually need as far as like the components of the website?
Yeah, so let's talk about the pages first. So actually the very first page you should have, and really everyone has this, is your homepage. So your homepage, everyone should have this, assuming you have a domain and there's some kind of website built out, that will be actually just your domain. And that might be xyzpestcontrol.com, that might be greendaypest.com, pestcontrolseo.com. That will be my homepage. And something also most people don't understand is that a website, like a lot of people say, oh, rank my website number one and just do SEO for me. It's like, well, the first thing you need to understand is that a website is a collection of pages. So it's not just one page. It's not like, it is a collection of pages. And a lot of people are like, oh, a lot of different websites. It's like, no, it's under the same domain. There are just different pages within that site as a whole. So that's the first thing you need to understand. And then regarding what actual pages to have on the site, again, you need that homepage, obviously. And that's where a lot of people are going to land. So assuming you might be putting that on your truck, that might be on the mailers, that might be on other places, your website is probably going to be plastered everywhere, and you're likely not going to be taking them to those other pages. A lot of times you're going to be taking people to your website of, you might get a referral, or you might be talking to someone and they're like, oh, tell me more about your company, or give me your website. And obviously you're not going to take them to some random page. They're going to go to your homepage. So that's obviously super important. We want to make sure that's set up and optimized, which we can jump into a little bit more. In terms of other web pages that we want to have, There are some kind of core basic ones. So we want to make sure that we have an about page. We want to make sure that we have a contact page. Kind of more technical, we want to have a 404 page. We want to have a privacy policy. We want to have terms and conditions. Those are kind of just some more like base pages that Google is looking for. And this is actually proven that Google sees you as more legit if you have something like a privacy policy and a terms of conditions. And that's not just like if you're a big software company, that's literally any company. And you can generate one of those in like 1 minute with ChatGPT. So that's not like a big deal. It's just make an extra page, privacy dash policy, and then make that page. Beyond that, pages that I recommend every pest control company set up is, and we can get into complex architecture and structure within the site. I won't go too deep into that yet, but something else that I really like to hone in on and focus on is what are called money pages, or as a lot of people might know, location pages or location service pages. And these are going to be the pages that are actually optimized for your top keywords. So your top keywords might be, I live in Chicago, so that might be pest control Chicago, or, the cities nearby. That might be pest control Glenview, pest control Evanston, pest control Northbrook. All of those different cities combined with all those services, those are the keywords that you want to show up for. And all of those top keywords that you want to show up for, we should have a page that is dedicated to them. Now, you don't have to go like too crazy with this. There is a certain threshold. Really the way to think of this is one concept per page. And I get this from Kyle Roof. He's one of the top people in on-page SEO. I interviewed him a while ago on my show. One concept per page. So for instance, if we take a group of keywords, let's say pest control Chicago pest control, Chicago exterminators, Chicago pest control services, that's all the same page because that's all basically the same thing. But if we switch the city, like I was just saying, pest control Chicago versus pest control Northbrook, that's actually different. Pest control in Chicago is different from pest control in Northbrook. So the money pages on your site, like I was saying, we're going to want to create pages for all of the main keywords that we want to target. And those are going to be the bottom of funnel keywords that will be things like pest control Chicago, pest control Northbrook, pest control Glenview. So really, and like to make this actionable for pest control owners, the top cities that you serve, you should have a page dedicated to each of those so that you can tell Google that, hey, we serve these areas and we want to show up in these areas. And then when someone does a Google search, it will show that page because Google is looking for ideally an exact match result. Now, it doesn't have to be exact, totally exact, as in like, someone optimized for pest control Chicago and I did it for Chicago pest control, so I'm going to lose it. It's not as in depth as that, and you usually don't have to take it to that extent because things are now becoming more like ChatGPT and AI mode and such, where now it's actually they're targeting conceptual rather than just keywords. But regardless, we still want those location pages in place, and that informs the search engines and the large language models of what your site is about, like what you do. And then some other pages we should have on the site, we should definitely have a blog page, and ideally that acts as almost a category page. So it'll be like XYZ pest control.com/blog, and then there will be / and then you'll have all your blogs there. So don't make the mistake of having all of your blogs, just your website / and then the URL, but the blogs should all be in their own dedicated category. And then some other pages you might want to have, and some ones that we typically recommend, really kind of the last ones here, would be maybe a pest library. You'll see a lot of companies do this, and you could consider it overkill. I wouldn't say it's a requirement, but this still is really good for building what's called topical relevance. Again, it's not so much like we're ranking these pages and it's going to like totally drive our SEO, but it's more so just informing search engines, having a good amount of pages on our site saying, hey, we're talking all about ants and we're talking all about mosquitoes. Like, we are the authority on this topic. And actually, just like we're doing here, of how we're talking about all the different things regarding pest control marketing and repurposing that into a site, that is showing authority. So talking about all the different bugs, hey, we know, like, we're pest control experts. We know all about bed bugs. We know all about termites. So that's something to consider as well. So there's that. I kind of picked one part of that question, but that is overall like really all the pages you want on the site.
Yep. Now, to kind of, you touched a little bit on some of the mistakes. What are some of the mistakes, like the setup mistakes on the website that that can impact the SEO as well?
Yeah, there's so many different setup mistakes. It's ridiculous. And they're like, I also like to preface this with, I see like the elements of Google in 4 components really, and that would be your, and in order in terms of ranking, I'll list them, your local service ads, Google ads, Google Business Profile, and website. And local service ads and Google Business Profile are pretty easy. They're relatively easy. Website and Google ads are kind of a nightmare, especially your website. There's so much that goes on there. It is just really a complete mess. If anyone's ever tried to go into WordPress, like you're talking to me about, it's just like, you have no idea what you're doing. One of my friends runs his dad's construction company, and he logged into WordPress for the first time ever. And he was like, dude, what is this?
Wow, this is a lot.
Yeah, I have no idea what to do. So yeah, it's really confusing. It's hard to go into something like WordPress for the first time, which is usually kind of the main development tool. But in terms of some common mistakes regarding the site, one big one that I usually recommend is that we should optimize the homepage for the brand. So like I told you, how you should do SEO is you create tons of different pages on all of the concepts that you want to cover, and that's one concept per page. So you shouldn't do several pages on the exact same thing, because that's considered duplicate content. And Google's either going to take one of those pages down, or it might take both of them down. And overall, you're just going to be deemed kind of less trustworthy in Google's eyes. It's like, why are you creating all this duplicate content? Are you a spammer? And now with all the AI stuff, are you just generating all these pages and duplicating them? What are you doing? So regarding the one topic or one concept per page, your homepage, a lot of people like to optimize it for different keywords, but you should be optimizing your other pages for keywords. And let's optimize the homepage for your brand. So your homepage, the H1, the title tag, throughout the page, that will be the different headers, in the text and such, we should be mentioning the brand name over and over. So to ensure when people are searching up our company, that our homepage shows up first. And that's the thing that we're gonna spend a lot of time on. A lot of people are gonna land there. I'd say another pretty common mistake that I see with pest control websites, kind of just more generally speaking, like we're doing here, is page speed. So a lot of companies, this is kind of hit or miss. I see some companies just like randomly crush this, and then other companies completely drop the ball. I do a page speed insights search, which is free. You can go to PageSpeed, what is it?
.dev or?
Yeah, PageSpeed.web.dev or something. PageSpeed, you can just search PageSpeed Insights. And this is a free Google tool that you can analyze any site and even any page within your site. So you can do this for every single page on your site if you want to. And with a lot of websites you see, and by the way, also with this report, it will split it into mobile and desktop. So the mobile score will always be worse. Mobile just happens to perform much worse, maybe 2 to 3 times worse. So you might see that your mobile score, like a pretty healthy one is, mobile takes about 3 seconds to load, and then your desktop takes about 1 second to load. That's kind of standard, not necessarily optimal, but that's something we should at least initially shoot for. But some companies that I look at, their homepage, some of the most important pages on their site are taking 10 seconds to load, 20 seconds to load. So when you think about your target market, when you think about people landing on your site, and maybe they came from a referral, or they came from whatever source, and are they going to wait 10 seconds for your page to load? No, are they going to sit there? And also there's different components within it, but at least the first one we want to look at is the first contentful paint, meaning how long does it take for the first initial load of the page, or the first initial piece of content of the page that is visible to load? If that's taking more than 10 seconds, really, it shouldn't be taking any more than 3 to 4 seconds, because people naturally drop off after all of that time. And especially now that people have the attention span of a goldfish. Yeah. Literally, I think people actually have a worse attention span than a goldfish. I'm pretty sure goldfish have an attention span of 8 seconds, and we have an attention span of 7 seconds on average, which is nuts. So you think that someone is going to wait all of that time to let your site load, and there's so many competitors out there. It's not like you're just in a market of one and you're just, selling a hot dog stand outside of a college of hungry people. Like, no, there are tons of pest control companies out there. You have so much competition. So you need to make sure that you get that leg up. And that's a really easy one. That's also fairly early in the funnel that most people don't cover.
Mm-hmm. And kind of go off that point. So what hosting sites are the best to keep that page speed high? And so you're not competing with the goldfish.
Yeah, definitely. So we want to be built on WordPress, which we've been kind of mentioning. About 50% of the internet is built on WordPress, might be 42% or something. Most of the internet is built on WordPress. And then also our actual, domain hosting provider, our hosting provider would be WP Engine. That's a really strong one. And then outside of that, something that we should also have set up for our company is Cloudflare. A lot of companies don't have this in place, but this not only helps site security, which is kind of what it's more known for, but that also helps with page speed. So we want to make sure that we have Cloudflare set up. We want to make sure that we're using WP Engine and that we're using WordPress. And then within WordPress, there's also a good amount we can do regarding optimization in plugins. So that's also where you're going to see a bulk of increase in efforts here, is that Cloudflare will do a good amount. WP Engine will definitely help. But kind of like the final straw here will be using some kind of SEO plugins. So that would be, first off, we have to have some kind of key SEO plugin. A pretty standard free one is Yoast SEO. So if you don't have any, then you should definitely have that one set up. For my agency and what we use for our clients, we like to use Rank Math. It's a little bit more expensive. It's a little bit more complex. But we like that more, and there are page speed tools that we can do within that. And then there are some other tools that we can use, such as like WP Rocket. That also helps with page speed. And then we should also have specifically one kind of image optimization tool. And there are plenty out there. It doesn't really matter. There's one connected directly to WP Rocket, so we usually just use that one. But there should be a dedicated image compressing plugin within your site, because the images are usually what takes a lot of the load speed, or really what increases the load speed the most. That you have these huge images and they might be marked as like a 5,000 by 5,000 picture, and you can show it as 100 by 100, and that's basically, it looks the same. The quality might be a tiny bit worse, but no one can even really tell, except it makes the page way faster. So we should definitely have some kind of, we should need the page speed plugin, and we also need some kind of image compressing plugin.
Love that. Now, you hit on page speed a lot. And a lot of people are on mobiles now, which they're mobile devices, which you even want it faster, like we're saying, sometimes even 2 to 3 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. So that goes into my next question, is how important is the mobile optimization for the pest control sites?
Yeah, so there's this key split between mobile and desktop. And mobile, depending on who you hear from, mobile is about 60 to 70% of searches. And that means that desktop would be about 30 to 40% of searches. Mm-hmm. So there are definitely more people searching on mobile than desktop. So that is why we want to optimize for mobile. Obviously, when people didn't have phones and it wasn't such a big deal, then we didn't have to worry too much. But a lot of people, most people, the average search, people are searching from their phones. And like I said, regarding the page speed on mobile is always going to be slower. I've never seen a scenario where this isn't the case, unless the site is like broken or something. So we want to make sure that we optimize for the mobile page speed, and then that naturally takes care of the desktop page speed. So yeah, mobile is incredibly important. More searchers than not are searching on mobile. So let's optimize for that first, and then that naturally takes care of desktop.
Perfect. Now the next question is, how should the site be structured with the navigation and be organized for that maximum SEO benefit?
Yeah, so this might be a little bit too complex for the average pest control owner, so I won't jump too deep into this. But typically how the site should be built out is you demonstrate categories. So I showed you on the whiteboard earlier of, we have core pages that are built upon. So for every pest control company, I mentioned the bottom of funnel pages and such, but ideally, if you are structuring the site the right way, then you should have a category page for termite control, really all the main services that you provide to demonstrate to Google clearly, what you do, who you guys are. So a page for termite control, for ant control, for mosquito control, for spider control, all these different pages. And that acts as a category page. And then we have a page beyond that. And that could either then be turned into a location page. And that could be, slash termite control slash Chicago, or we could do slash termite control slash, and then the termites that we serve. Usually the way we like to structure it, because there's like a bunch of different ways, but typically the way we like to do it is doing our location pages that way. So we have the general service pages, which again, slash termite control, slash ant control, slash spider control, whatever. And then we have the locations after that. So slash termite dash control slash Chicago dash IL. And that is our termite control Chicago page on our site. So that's kind of how we should be thinking about the structure there. And that goes for some other pages as well, like your pest library. So for the pest library, that would be, xyzpestcontrol.com slash pest dash library slash ants slash spiders slash termites, all the different pests that you serve. That shows to Google very clearly, okay, you have a library of all the things that you provide, versus just every page on the site is, it's just directly connected to the domain. Versus when you demonstrate categories, it also shows depth of concept that, hey, we know all about termite control, and we have a page for that, but we also have pages within that because we have so much expertise within the termite control category and within the ant control category and these other things. And then another thing, probably the last thing I'll mention here regarding structure, is internal linking. So internal linking also plays into the structure. So first we need to build out and really identify what categories we want to have and how we want to build out the site. So it really should be that we have our homepage up here and that we have different category pages here. And then there might be pages within that, and then maybe even pages within those pages. And what we want to do from there is then start interlinking these pages. So when you have a top level category page connected, again, like let's say we have just a general pest control page, and then under that, within that category, we have Chicago, Illinois, we have Northbrook, Illinois, we have Glenview, Illinois. Those pages, the ones connecting to the category, should all be linking to each other. So Chicago, Illinois should be linking to pest control, and that should be linking back to that, to demonstrate even more clearly the architecture. So that's, I know that's like super complex. A lot of people won't understand that, but at least just to kind of grasp that of like, maybe you're building a new website, just something to consider of talking to your developer, like, hey, are we structuring the site right? Is like, are we doing whatever Danny's saying here? So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, no, that's great. Like that is a lot of info to cover. And what I wanted to hit on of why this is important as a pest control owner, because years ago, I wasn't putting enough emphasis on my website. And just coming from my perspective as a pest control owner, this does matter because ultimately it ranks you higher and you're going to get more calls. And for everyone watching this, they want more calls, they want more business. And that's why this is important. It's something that you don't want to just let pass by and you not care about. You need to do these things just like Jonas talks about all the time is doing everything. And this is one of the integral pieces to making the business successful, making the brand look professional and premium. So there was a lot to cover that, but don't discount this information. It's absolutely amazing. I know for a lot of people, it can be a little overwhelming for some of this types of info, but just watch this video a few times if you have to, because it is very, very important for your business and to really get dialed in so you can get more business, more calls, and be more successful in your pest control business. So one of the first questions that we get is, what are the top keywords customers use when they're searching for pest control?
Yeah, that's a great one. So there's a lot of different things I could say here. I'll say very generally that, first off, it does depend on the area because people will typically look up geographically relevant keywords. That might be, again, I've mentioned like pest control Chicago or pest control Glenview or pest control Evanston. So I guess that might be the first thing that I say there is that a really common one is pest control plus city name. So whatever city you're in, and by the way, that's actually exact. So just for people that don't understand exactly how keywords work, every little slight nuance within a phrase is a different keyword. So pest control Chicago is a different keyword than Chicago pest control. It's a different keyword than, Chicago exterminators, different than, pest control Chicago, except there's no space between the pest and control. Like that's how nuanced they get, because you don't have to account for people misspelling, but just like understand that happens, and those get identified as each individual keyword. So that's kind of the main one. And what I was saying is that is essentially like the exact search phrase. We see, pest control Chicago always more times than a Chicago pest control. We see a pest control Houston more times than a Houston pest control always. So, that differentiating doesn't make too much of a difference. But, for Chicago pest control, I actually mentioned this in my book, that pest control Chicago has about 1,000 searches a month, and that was pest control Chicago.
How many searches did you say per month?
About 1,000. Pest control Chicago has about 1,000 searches a month, and then Chicago pest control has about 400 searches a month. So that is a big difference. So ideally, let's optimize for that main keyword, assuming that there isn't too much keyword difficulty, which you can see in a tool like SEMrush. It'll show you the keyword difficulty and it'll give you a percentage. So between these different keywords, it was basically the same. Pest control Chicago is about 35%, maybe Chicago pest control was 37%. So ideally, we want to optimize for that top keyword. So that's a really easy one. And like I was saying in a previous video we made, that we're optimizing for, making pages for those keywords across the cities that we serve. Then there's some more general ones that we can very clearly see. So that might be pest control near me. That'll be just pest control, exterminator near me. Pest exterminators near me is actually pretty common, believe it or not. Then maybe some other services a little bit near me. So there's, maybe wildlife removal near me, termite control near me, some for pest control services. But really the top two by far are pest control near me and pest control. Those are just the most basic ones. Everyone's searching, at least as of now, because people might have more advanced searches in the future with all the AI stuff and searching on ChatGPT and now Google's AI mode. So that might change in the future. But overall, those are kind of the general keywords we can expect customers to search when they are in a transactional state.
Yep. And how do you identify those high intent keywords?
Yeah, so there's a difference, right? Because there's a funnel of keywords. There's top of funnel keywords, there's middle of funnel keywords, there's bottom of funnel keywords. So a lot of people, not necessarily will make the mistake of, but a lot of companies will spend all of their time focusing on top of funnel keywords and just like, ranking on, raccoon removal, except there's no geo-targeting, and geo-targeting meaning you're involving the city in some way. Like, oh, we just want to rank on how to get rid of spiders. And like, that's okay. We can still do that. But like I've said before, and like I've said many times, let's first focus on the bottom of funnel keywords, which would be the ones of, pest control Chicago, pest control near me. Those are all the people that are actually trying to convert. They want to, find a company. And when we're talking about SEO, like SEO is a lead generation strategy at the end of the day. A lot of people are like, oh, I got my traffic up. I got my backlinks up. I got like this and that, all these crazy statistics. But it's like, well, did we get more leads from SEO or not? And that comes from setting up these money pages and targeting these bottom of funnel keywords. So those ones that I was just mentioning, those are the bottom of funnel ones. But obviously we can have higher, top of funnel ones that'll generate traffic, and they will generate, some brand recognition. But typically, I recommend always somewhat geo-modifying your content, always having some kind of local perspective. Even like some of the pest pages we set up, instead of setting up a page for ants, we'll set up a page for ants in Arizona. So at least, we don't serve all of Arizona, maybe we serve half of Arizona, but still at least we rank on that term actually because it's easier than ants, and because people across Arizona, maybe it's a 1 in 2, 1 in 4 chance that they actually can use our services, but that's, they're still more middle of funnel, but now they know our company.
Love that. Now, what are some of the tools that you're actually using to identify those keywords that are going to be the best for you?
Yeah, so I mentioned my favorite SEO tool is SEMrush. SEMrush is like the basically all in one. I think they have over 55 tools within the platform. Now, it is fairly expensive. I think it's $140 a month right now. So that might be through an agency, or that might be through some kind of partner. Like, obviously, I set up all the SEMrush campaigns for my clients. They don't set that up. But again, you might want some kind of client, or some kind of agency to set that up, some kind of partner. But SEMrush is a really great overall SEO tool. It basically covers everything. You can do keyword research. You can see your domain authority. You can see how much traffic you're getting. And then another great part of that is that you can also connect that to your Google Search Console and your Google Analytics. So that all of that kind of speculative third-party data is now also combined with the Google data. But yeah, SEMrush is a great one for keywords. And also, just going a little bit further on the keywords, you're talking about understanding the intent. Part of that, it is kind of intuitive just to know, like, hey, if someone searches pest control Chicago, they're probably looking to convert. But you can also see this through SEMrush. So they show different levels of intent whenever you're searching for keywords. And you can do some searches for free. I think it gives you 10 searches a day for free, and it will kind of be limited, but that's something. And you can see it will give, you'll see the intent category, and it will show a T for transactional, or an I for informational, or these other categories that are provided. So we want to optimize for the T transactional ones first, because those are the ones we're going to make money on.
Love that. Now, how many other free tools? I hear this a lot with AI. Is there any new AI tools that are looking up those keywords? Is there a bunch of free ones? SEMrush, obviously, we both use it. It is a little more expensive maybe to someone just getting started. How many free tools are there, and is there any AI that can do any of this stuff?
Yeah, so you should definitely have Google Analytics and Google Search Console set up. Those are actual Google tools and actual Google data that it's either connected to your site or to your domain, which it's, again, giving you the real data with what's going on. And honestly, I mean, I wouldn't say that's enough, but it's a really good starting point. And if you have a good amount of data, and assuming those are already set up, and maybe you've had them set up for a few months or even a few years, then you can go into those platforms and see, and it'll show you, like in your Google Search Console, of how many impressions are you getting for this search. Like, okay, last month we got 10,000 impressions. This month we got 50,000 impressions, which isn't too crazy, because that just means your search showed up on the page. No one actually clicked. But okay, last month we got 50 clicks, and this month we got 100 clicks. It's like, oh wow, I can see that. And Google Search Console will show you all of the different keywords that you got traffic for. So everyone's talking about, again, I mentioned SEMrush because that's my favorite, and there's these different SEO tools, but you can use Google Analytics and Google Search Console and get a good amount out of those. And then besides that, another one I like to mention, well, this is almost like cliche or kind of stupid, but literally just use Google Search. Just search on the platform. Ideally, you log out of your Google account and you do it from a private browser, but search some of your top keywords and see what shows up. Instead of going through all the tools like I do, because I already look at these other things, actually just do a search for your top keywords and see what shows up. Is it your top competitor? Is it Yelp? Is it whoever? Is it mostly Google ads? Is it mostly local service ads? I encourage every pest control owner to do this. Really see what is showing up on your top searches. Is it, one of your biggest competitors? You're like, oh wow, this website page is ranking. I could do way better than that. Yep. Versus, wow, okay, it's Orkin. They're totally crushing it. This page is to the max. They have tons of links to it. It's over. We probably can't rank on this term. So I would say those are kind of my top 3 free tools.
Yep, love that. And one last question for you is, how do you group and prioritize those keywords effectively then?
Yeah, definitely. So we can track those within a SEMrush project, and we can actually just really bulk those all together. So we don't need to go too crazy with grouping. Actually, something relating to that is I will set up a master spreadsheet for all of my clients, and we will have essentially columns and categories for, okay, here are all of the top keywords for Chicago. Here are all the top keywords for Northbrook. Here are all the top keywords for Glenview. And we can see those all laid out very clearly. It's wow, okay, there are tons of different pest control searches in Chicago. And then seeing, I was saying that we should have one concept per page, if it's Pest Control Chicago and Chicago Exterminators and all these different terms are basically the same, we shouldn't make different pages for those, but instead on that one page, optimize for all of those different keywords on that one page, which means, putting them in different headings, and having those keywords just throughout the page so that we can rank on them. So that's essentially how I do the grouping. And like I already mentioned with the prioritization, we should always start with the bottom of funnel, not the top of funnel. Let's always get those easy ones ranking. And really something also that you should focus on is when you look at, again, a tool like SEMrush and you see maybe, one of those bottom of funnel money pages is ranking like number 3. That's what you need to be focusing on. It's really hard to create a page from scratch. Google has to crawl it. It has to index it. It then ranks it. Then you're ranking, like 40. And then you continue to maybe climb up the ranks. Then you're 30 and then you're 20. It's like when you start, if you already have a page ranking 3 or 5 or 4, definitely anything top 10, definitely focus on those first because those are going to be much easier to rank. And, the clicks drastically drop from 1 to 10. So 1's going to get maybe 30% of the clicks, and then it will drop about about half each time. So it'll be like 30%, then 15%, then 7%. And now if you're ranking number 5, you're getting like, a few percent of clicks. So those top results are really important. So let's focus on the keywords that are already doing pretty well. We just need a little bit of a boost there.
That's good. Now we covered quite a bit. How would you summarize the information you just covered in just a few short sentences for the audience watching?
Yeah. So you need to focus on bottom of funnel keywords. That's where you're actually going to make your money with SEO. And specifically look at the ones that are already doing well. And you can do that through free tools like Google Analytics, Google Search Console, and a free Google search. Or if you are looking to be more of an SEO pro, if you really want to take it to the next level, then use a tool like SEMrush, and you can either go through my course or just kind of figure it out on your own and master that there.
First question I have for you, Danny, I have a list of questions for you here, is what details must you optimize on your Google My Business profile?
Yeah. So thanks so much for having me on the show, Jake. It's a pleasure. Yeah, so there's a lot of different things we can optimize on the Google Business profile. So I guess we can start with, really the most important factors, which actually I'll jump into some of the things that won't be too kind of catastrophic, but really kind of more some easy wins that we can get on the profile. So something I like to mention that not too many people know, but the services section is one of the sections that actually does matter on your Google Business profile. So we want to make sure, and we talked about keywords in the last video that we did, we need to identify all of the top keywords that we want to rank on and not only create website pages on those, but also add those keywords to our services section on our Google Business profile. So again, that might be Pest Control Chicago, Pest Control Near Me, and we should optimize it specifically for that location. So you might have a Chicago location, or you might have a Glenview location, or Northbrook. These are just all the places near me. You should only optimize for the city that you're based in. So don't go crazy with, every single city that we service. No, we can really only expect to rank the Google Business profile in the city that we're placed in. So let's only optimize for the city that we're placed in. Let's only talk about that city and the keywords that we're using. So the services section is a really easy one that we can fill out. And overall, there's just a lot of really basic information that we should have on the profile that is really non-negotiable. And honestly, I feel like anyone can do this. You can just go into your Google Business Profile Manager or dashboard or whatever you want to call it. And you can access this. I'll just explain this real quick for people that don't know, is that you can access this one or two ways. You can search up Google Business Profile. You'll click on the first link on Google, then you'll click sign in. And then if you are signed into the right account, which means the Google account that is associated with your Google Business profile that maybe you set it up with or someone gave you access to it with, then your profile should show up there. And then you'll click edit profile, and then it'll take you to your actual dashboard. Well, you'll see a bunch of different things like edit profile, get reviews, add photos, post an update, these different kinds of things. Another way you can do that is potentially just searching up your actual company name under the email address that you are signed into, that is associated with that Google Business Profile. So, for me, I have a Google Business Profile for my agency, Pest Control SEO. And when I'm logged into my email account, I just search up Pest Control SEO, and then my dashboard shows up immediately. So first off, we want to make sure that we can access that. And then overall, I just recommend you don't even necessarily have to listen to me doing a step-by-step checklist, but just go through these items yourself. And one of the biggest ones will actually just be the edit profile, which is the top left one. And there will be a bunch of things here. So you can add your socials, you can add a description, you can potentially change your company name if you want, you can change your address, and some other different components in there. But there's a lot of optimization just in that edit profile thing. Just a lot of basic things. It's not necessarily one big thing that you need to do, but just overall, as a general rule, fill it out as much as possible.
Hey guys, real quick. If you guys are really looking to grow your pest control company, check out what we do at pestcontrolmillionaires.com.
And how often should you be making those adjustments?
Yeah, so there's going to be a bulk optimization, or at least there should be, and this is what we do for clients, when you first go into a Google Business Profile. So we should be, adding all the services, adding, all the products, doing all the things on the edit profile section like I was talking about. And that might take, depending on the profile, it might be a few hours or so. It's really actually not complex. I'd say 5 hours max for a profile, which, a website is going to be way more time. And this is why this is kind of a quick win we like to get for clients. Google Business Profile right away because it's quick and the results are also faster. So there's going to be that base optimization of pretty much all the things that I just mentioned. And then there's the recurring stuff. And just kind of what you were saying, of those base things that we do, there isn't much that we need to build on top of them. So, you create a company description, you link your social profiles, you obviously have your company name, you have your company address, that's all one-time stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's also the beauty of this, is that there's a lot of one-time things that we do on the Google Business Profile where it's done. The same way we make this video. We make one video, it's done. I don't want to keep making videos, or I don't want to make this one video forever. Let's just do it one time and then it's done. But then that goes into the recurring items regarding the Google Business Profile, and I'll mention these while I'm talking, is that one recurring thing we want to make sure to do is collecting reviews and replying to reviews. Yep. So this is something that most companies don't do, or actually, sorry, but most companies do this, but they don't go all out. They might be collecting reviews here and there. They might be using a software. They might be asking their clients, but then they leave and then they don't collect the review. Most companies overall are failing at reviews. I talk about my dad and his flooring company, and he would ask every single client for a review and he would never get a review. And the reason why is because he'd just say, hey, could you leave us a review on Google? And they'd say, yeah. And he'd be like, all right, great. And then he'd leave.
Right.
And then he'd never get the review. So you have to stay there. You have to make sure that they leave the review while you're there. And ideally maybe incentivizing your technicians and giving them a script regarding this. The same way they have a door-to-door sales script, or you have a CSR script, there should also be a script regarding collecting reviews of how can we make sure that every single customer leaves a review. And part of this is actually, part of it is company culture, and another part is just ensuring actual good service. You do not want to be a company that is, either at 3 stars or a company that has barely any reviews. Both are not trustworthy. And like we've talked about before, every single company now with all the AI stuff and all, the age of information, you need to be optimizing for trust. And a huge part of that is reviews. So we really need to be collecting as many reviews on a recurring basis as possible. And then also replying to all of those reviews. So I had this this big guy on my podcast recently in local SEO, and he kind of made this analogy, which it just makes sense. Is if someone says, if I do something for you and you say thank you, and then I don't say you're welcome, it's just what? He's like, thanks, and you're just
see you later.
What? When people say thank you, you say you're welcome. Oh yeah, it's my pleasure. It was so great to provide that great service or whatever it was. And this is also kind of how you build your brand and reputation. And really, a lot of people kind of get this mistaken. They're like, oh well, I should optimize my keyword I should optimize my review replies with keywords. And, I've seen people reply with like a page long. It's like, no, don't do all of that. It's not really, it's not really, no.
Yeah.
It's not really a ranking factor. It's a conversion factor. So people land on your profile after you rank, and then they're looking through your profile. A lot of people are going to look at your reviews, and they see that you have great reviews, number one, but then also number two, they see how you're interacting with those reviews. And if you just say very plainly, oh, thanks. Like I've seen this before. So someone leaves like a raving review. They give a review that's like a page long, and they end up replying, oh, hey, thanks. It's like, what? Give a little bit more effort. Show like a little bit
Thanks,
more.
Period.
Seriously. Show a little bit more reciprocation there. And then some companies won't reply to them at all. Other companies will reply with a ChatGPT generated message. It's like, you don't need to reply with ChatGPT. It's so easy to reply to a message. Like it takes 30 seconds, and have like your office manager, or, maybe even like a competent virtual assistant do this, but like, don't generate it with ChatGPT. Don't reply with one word, like just basic things here. And then in terms of other things that we want to do on a recurring basis, this isn't a requirement, but I typically like to get at least some photos added to the profile every single month. And this overall, and this is like what Google's looking for, is freshness. That there are things going on the profile consistently. And also this applies to your website too, that you are adding photos consistently, that you are checking the profile consistently. Google can see that you are checking the profile. So if no one's checked in for a few months, it almost looks like suspicious. You are adding photos. You might be adding frequently asked questions. You might be getting reviews. You might be replying to reviews. You might be going in and seeing that Google will sometimes automatically adjust the services that you provide, and then you change those. Say, hey, Google, I don't provide that, but hey, I actually do provide this. Just going in and providing that basic information. But overall, in terms of like the recurring strategy of what we need to do on a recurring basis, the main thing is going to be reviews.
Yep. I was going to mention something in there. What you said is I've actually seen profiles get suspended that haven't logged in for a while.
Yeah.
I've seen profiles that have 500 reviews, but they haven't logged in or added any pictures or done any changes, and their profile gets suspended. I don't know if that's coincidence or what that. Or you've seen a whole lot more than I have. Is there any validity to that?
That could tie into it. I don't think that would be the reason for a suspension, but I think that could be part of a suspension. Like there are all these other things that look a little suspicious, a little bit off, and you haven't logged in your profile ever.
Yeah.
And you have one person, and something Google also looks at is like the Google accounts associated with the profile. So I have a local guide account, which means I'm a level 8 local guide, which means I have like a trusted Google account versus if you just started your Google account last year, you've never left a review, you don't even use Gmail, like Google's looking at all these things. If you don't have a trusted Google account, and that's the only thing attached to the Google business profile, that's a lot less trustworthy, and you're going to be more susceptible to a suspension.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Next question for you, Danny, is how can pest control companies encourage more Google My Business profile reviews?
Yeah, definitely. So I mentioned how important they are, but in terms of like the actual strategy, one thing you want to do is incentivize your technicians. So I typically recommend just 10 to 20 bucks per technician. And some people might not want to do this. Like, oh, I'm going to be spending so much money on reviews.
So worth it.
It is so worth it. If you could just like have, a review printing machine and just press $20 for a review every single time, I would just keep clicking that button.
I would $1 million.
Spam that button because reviews are so important. And it seems like most people actually know this now, but they're still not really putting it into practice. But that is one key is putting some kind of incentivization program with your technicians. Something else you can do is just make it feel personal. So this might be the actual owner if you're really small, or your technicians. Make it kind of a heartfelt story. Make it like, hey, and maybe even a technician like, hey, my job relies on this, or hey, I'm in competition with the other technicians, or it's the owner like, hey, look, this is like how I grow my business. I'm just trying to put food on the table. Like whatever you need to say to get that review, that's what you need to say. And like the beauty of this is that it's really not as hard as you think. is assuming you did a great job, just about everyone's going to be down to leave you a review on Google. Now, they might not know how. That's another factor of this. But then you should show them how. You should
make it easy for them.
Yeah, make it very easy. So something else you can do, I've seen companies put QR codes on lanyards or on business cards or some other, I've seen people do like a tap to scan, all these different things. Yep. Regardless of what you want to do, you can still send them to a website link. You can just have them search up your business and leave the review there. But this is something some people, especially these older homeowners, they might need to be walked through that. So again, don't just leave like my dad used to do, but actually, that actually sounded kind of funny. But, don't just leave the house right after the service, but actually stay there with them and prompt them with the review and say, hey, maybe, mention something surprising today, or if you could mention my name, if that's how you get incentivized, or, just mention how horrible those termites were, just, something just a little to prompt them, because ideally the review doesn't have like zero text or anything. But overall, that's kind of how I would go about getting those reviews.
Yep. Another thing you guys get, there's a bunch of tools, of course, out there to get more reviews. We have a texting system that goes out to them because we see the importance of review. Just like you said, if there was a button where you could sit there. Yeah. So we did spend a little bit of money on a review system that sends out an automated text to people, letting them leave a review that way too. So that's another, but the technicians, in my opinion, the best way, because it's more personalized.
Yeah. So ideally, and I only said this component. You're right. There's another component of this. Smaller companies, which is really who we're talking to, companies doing under $1 million a year or so, should definitely do that more personal, asking in-person approach. But as you begin to become a bigger company, it might be harder to systemize and coach all your different technicians and such. Then you can use a automated review platform. No, there are plenty out there. There's Birdeye. There's Applause, there's, Gather Up, there's all these different review platforms. I personally heard a lot of pest control owners like Applause, but really it doesn't matter the platform. And actually, why I started with asking in person is because that's actually what works best. That's what the customers like best. And that's kind of just the most reliable and also the cheapest.
It's good stuff. And last question for you here, Danny, is what are the common Google My Business profile mistakes that pest control business owners are making right now?
A lot of mistakes. One is that ideally we should have the company name on the profile optimized. So there should at least be pest in there, ideally pest control. Like I mentioned, that's the top keyword. So if we can have pest control instead of pest solutions or pest services, if you're just starting out, that's a pretty basic mistake. And that's actually a huge ranking factor, your business name. So ideally we have that in place. Overall, I'd say one of the mistakes is just that people have a misconception about what are the ranking factors, that they totally over optimize and add way too many services and way too many products and way too many of these other things, when one of the key things really is just like get a lot of reviews, man. Like once we do that initial optimization, pretty much one of the only things we're going to be doing is collecting reviews. So stop worrying so much about all of these external factors, and not actually external factors, but just like all these little tiny nuances of, again, like, well, should I keyword optimize my review replies? Like, no, dude, that's like, that's really, really small. Like if it is a ranking factor, it's like 1%.
Very small.
But when we're talking about reviews, that is huge. The recency, the consistency, the volume, like all of those different components of reviews, those are huge. And actually, I guess maybe I'll end with this, is that relating to the reviews, it's not just about the volume. Like people will look at their market and their competition and say, oh, well, there's an Orkin with 5,000, or there's, an Ecolab or whatever, 3,000. But a big part of ranking regarding reviews is recency and consistency, like I mentioned. So it's not just about who has the most reviews, but it's also, are you getting them every week or every day, or have you not gotten one in 40 weeks? Like, and I had one example I saw where this company that had only like 150 reviews was crushing this other company that had 1,000 reviews. And that's because the one who had 1,000 reviews hadn't gotten a review in like 6 months.
Wow, yep.
And the one with 150 got one, I don't know, probably like 2 or 3 a week. And that was boosting their profile more than the one who had 1,000. So probably more than ever, recency and consistency really matters. And people don't take that into account.
That's huge. Now, I guess one last thing I wanted to cover was you had mentioned with the Google My Business Profile stuff, it actually doesn't take a lot of time like people think. Is this something that business owners can do themselves? Should they hire this out? What are your opinions on that?
So they can do it themselves, but there is still kind of a learning curve. I think, honestly, you could go through my course, not to like plug it or anything, but seriously, that's probably the best because you don't need to pay an agency like $2,000 to optimize it. Like you can just go through my course, or maybe we can even give you a checklist. You can reach out to me. And you can just go through it yourself because it really is basic. The same way with local service ads. Local service ads are even simpler, but Google Business Profile, like you spend an afternoon completely optimizing it and you're done. It's like not really anything crazy.
Yep. So a few questions we're going to ask him is mainly going to cover over how to optimize your website for SEO for you pest control owners. So the first question for you, Danny, is what on-page SEO factors matter most for pest control websites?
Yeah, so first I'd like to distinguish really the 3 different pillars of SEO, which would be there is on-page SEO, there's technical SEO, and there's off-page SEO. So I'll just explain those real quick. On-page SEO is optimizing the individual pages on your site. So you might be optimizing the headings, you might be putting different pages on you might be putting different images on individual pages and such. That is on-page SEO, and that's what you're asking. Off-page SEO is what is completely off the site. So that might be backlinks, that might be reviews. You could even consider that things like social media, getting followers, getting engagement and likes and such. That is all off-page because it is completely off the website. Then we have technical SEO, which is part of the site, but it's essentially items that you can optimize across the site. So things like page speed. Page speed, you might use a plugin or something similar, and you're optimizing the speed across the site. So that will usually come from plugins and that kind of thing. So what you're asking about here is about on-page. So with on-page, the factors that matter most, and we're mainly going to be talking about those location pages, the money pages, things like a Pest Control Chicago page. So there are 4 main places that you want to have any given keyword that you want to optimize a page for. And that will be your H1, your title, your text, and your URL. So all of those 4, and I'll explain those briefly. So the URL is what's actually in the really domain search, or I guess you'll see this in like the search bar. So that might be xyzpestcontrol.com/pest-control-Chicago. So that is a ranking factor there that Google's looking at the actual URL. What does the URL say? Okay, it says Pest Control Chicago. The page is probably about Pest Control Chicago. Then another component of that is your H1. The H1 is usually the top heading of the page. It's usually bigger than all of the other ones, but it's not so much about the visual component. It's about how Google is actually reading the page. So it's the same way you might think of like a high school essay, a college essay, whatever, that you have your main heading, and that's actually, the title of your essay or whatever the piece of content you're making. And then you'll have secondary headings, which will be like H2s. And those are the kind of secondary topics. And then you might have H3s and maybe even H4s that are within those. So the H1 is by far the most important. That's at the top of the page. Then we have the H2s, which are second most important, and then H3s and so on, and they get less and less important. So the H1 is the main one that we want to optimize for. The main keyword that we want to optimize for should be in the H1, should be in the URL. Then the next one would just be having it somewhere on the page. So somewhere in the text, in the paragraphs that you mentioned, that exact keyword should be mentioned. And I've been kind of emphasizing optimizing for one keyword, but we could actually optimize one page for many keywords. So those secondary keywords that might not have as much traffic or might be a little bit more difficult, we can include those across the page as well. And then that can still at least get us a chance at ranking at those and getting some traffic from those. And then the last one is the title tag. So this is something that you're not necessarily going to see. It's technically part of the metadata. And this is more so just to communicate with search engines. And actually, part of it is to communicate with search engines, but another part of it is what will show up on the actual Google search result. So when you do a search for something like Pest Control Chicago, and then you see all the different websites that are listed, you might see Yelp, you might see Orkin, you might see, Active, whatever. That title that you'll see with a description under it, that is the title tag, and then there's the meta description under that. So we really want to make sure that our main keyword is in those 4 places, and then we can kind of go from there.
Love that. Now, next question for you, Danny, is why is internal linking critical for pest control SEO?
Yeah, so this is one that very few people get right. This is a pretty tough one. So first off, what is internal linking? Internal linking is linking from one page on your site, which I've already explained that your website is a collection of web pages. It's not just one thing, but there's many different pages on the site. And internal linking is linking from one page on your site to another page on your site. So then there's the other end of that, which is external linking. External linking is linking from one page on your site to one page on another person's site. So just to make that distinction there, and that's technically a backlink, by the way. Internal linking is so important because this gives Google and ultimately search engines and large language models like ChatGPT context and relevance of what the page is about. So again, this is all about informing, teaching, coaching the platform, let's say Google, of what the page is about. So if you have a page, let's say, I keep mentioning Pest Control Chicago. Let's say you have the Pest Control Chicago page. To establish some relevance there, to show Google somewhat what the page is about or things that are related to it, because Google learns just like humans. Humans learn through association, meaning, okay, I understand Pest Control Chicago because I'm very familiar with Pest Control Northbrook. I know nothing about Chicago, but I know everything about Northbrook. Okay, Chicago is close to Northbrook. Okay, I can make the association. They're pretty similar. That's essentially how Google works. Google actually works just like the human brain. So this internal linking shows a relationship and relevance between these pages. So ideally, and some people go overboard with this. You shouldn't go too crazy, but you should have a few internal links on each of the pages on your website that are super relevant to other pages on your website. So that Pest Control Chicago page should probably link to the Pest Control Northbrook page and the Pest Control, Pest Control Glenview page and so forth. And actually, those kind of act as mini backlinks. This is like a pretty easy strategy that you can use, and it's something you do yourself. So backlinks or external links from other people is something you really have to fight for. You might have to pay for them. You'll have to do some outreach. Maybe you can get some from your friends, but they're pretty tough to acquire versus internal links can work really well. And that's something you do. So we obviously want to work on the things that we can optimize for first. And a pretty cool trick here, most people don't know this. My mentor, Dennis Yu, showed me, is that you can go on Google's Gemini, which is, their ChatGPT equivalent. A lot of people, most people use ChatGPT, but there is a reason for using Gemini, and that's because they are linked to Google. It is a Google product, so they can pull directly from all of the websites that are listed on Google versus ChatGPT can, but not to that extent and not like crawling every single page. Like Google has all of it, where ChatGPT maybe, has 50% of it. That's kind of just a rough estimate. So what you can do on a tool, or not even on a tool, like on the Gemini tool, is you can give it your domain and ask, what are some of the top internal linking opportunities on this site? Because Google can see all the different pages on the site. So you might have 100 different pages on the site, and it'll be like, oh, wow, and my mentor Dennis did this. He did it for his Blitz metric site. And he was like, I want to do some internal linking for the blog post that we've made about Danny Leibrandt. And it found all of the different Danny Leibrandt pages and then linked them to each other to establish that relevance. And then that powers up all of those different pages. So that's something really powerful you can do.
And that wasn't something that was possible even a couple years ago.
No,
right?
No, not at all, which is crazy.
Very cool. Very cool. Next question for you, Danny, is how do images and videos impact SEO, and how should they be optimized?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So I don't think about them too much from the SEO perspective. I think of them more from a conversion perspective that, no one really wants to land on a blank page. Whereas, maybe if someone's just doing a ChatGPT search and ChatGPT can see all of just the text on the page, then, maybe that works. But it is more from a conversion component, but I will still give a caveat to that I've explained that Google is looking for EEAT, which is their search quality rater guidelines, and they are based upon that EEAT, which is experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So when we're talking about experience, how can you demonstrate experience? That will be a lot through photos and videos. So there's not like a direct ranking factor there, but overall, that kind of satisfies Google's guidelines and overall what they're looking to see. So we love to have, a few unique photos on every single website page, and even videos. Videos, I understand pest control owners are busy. They don't like taking videos. So I don't even get into that too much.
Should they be using like filler content? Should they be using like Shutterstock images? Can you go a little bit into depth that? Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, 100%. So you should never use stock images and you should never use AI images because, again, we want to demonstrate EEAT. So people and Google want to see real content, like actually you doing the service of, okay, you say that you do bed bug control, let's actually see it. And that's what customers are asking too. Customers don't want to see random stock art or a random AI generated image. Even if the AI generated image is, supposedly one of your technicians that has your uniform, it should be a real actual image that you guys have taken. So no, you really should never use those. And then I don't like the crazy optimization stuff that people do on images. There's not too much to do there. Overall, just in the alt text, which is essentially explaining to search engines what the image is about, go into the alt text and literally just say what the image is about. And then maybe you can sometimes put a keyword in there. It depends. If it's a pest control Chicago page, then we will put, hey, this is Steve doing termite control in Chicago. And then that plays, but you don't want to crazy over optimize that. You actually do want to explain what the image is about.
Good stuff. And the last question for you, Danny, is which tool effectively measures and enhances on-page optimization?
Yeah, so for on-page, you can use a site like Page Optimizer Pro, that is also known as POP. That's Kyle Roof's tool, which I mentioned before. If you really want to go crazy on on-page stuff, then that's the one to use. But overall, I think you're just good using SEMrush, kind of just a general SEO tool. Something else that I like to use as an on-page tool, which is free, this is a Chrome extension called Meta SEO Inspector. So you install this free Chrome plugin. By the way, there's many plugins like this, and there's actually, mine is one of the worst looking ones. I got it kind of a while ago. So now that, different people have come out with better tools, but this is still the one I've been using for a while, and obviously it works. And using this tool, you can see all of the metadata across the page. So mainly what you're looking at is the title tag, the meta description, and then the headings throughout the page. And this is really important because the headings on your page, really the way I view it is how you're communicating to Google and these other, potentially large language models of what the page is about. So I've seen people that have headings all over the place, and really you just have to check this for yourself. Ideally, you go and get this, free Chrome extension, Meta SEO Inspector, and use it for, some of the top pages on your site. And you'll be surprised to see, oh, wow, looking at these headings, it's how would Google have any idea what this page is about? There's no question of why this page wouldn't rank. Obviously, it's not ranking because number one, the headings don't convey of what the page is about at all. So that's something really easy to see as well. And that's arguably one of the main on-page components is let's make sure that all the headings on the page clearly demonstrate what we're talking about in our SEO optimized for our primary keyword first, which would be, again, put that in the title tag, the H1, the URL, but then some of those secondary keywords we can have in those H2s and throughout the text.
One of the questions that I want to ask right away, Danny, is about backlinks. It's what type of backlinks are going to be the most valuable for pest control companies to get right away?
Yeah, definitely. And maybe even a better place to start is like, do backlinks even matter? Because a lot of people even ask me this. Yeah. Backlinks do still 100% matter. I hate to break it to you, but backlinks are really, you can think of them, first off, if you don't know what they are, it's essentially a link from someone else's site to your site. And that will particularly be a link on one of their pages on their sites that will be maybe in the text of their page, or that could be a button, and then it goes to one of the pages on your site. So that's what a backlink is. And the reason why it's so important is because it essentially acts as a vote of confidence. So everything in SEO is about building authority and trust. So when a very trustworthy, authoritative person links to your site, that acts as what people call in SEO a vote, that they are giving you a vote of confidence that, maybe I write an article about pest control marketing and I link to your website because I'm like, talking maybe about Facebook ads. And I'm like, oh, if you want to learn about Facebook ads for pest control, definitely check out Jake Sheldon. And then, in Jake Sheldon, I could link to your personal site. And that would be a vote of confidence saying like, hey, I clearly endorse this person or this site, overall, this entity. And that's why it's so powerful. And kind of in the other respect, it's not so powerful when it's from smaller sites that have no authority or relevance or trust. So I've seen this before, that some people will pay, or at least I don't know about people paying, but I've seen ads on Facebook that say, buy 10,000 backlinks for $100. And I'm sure some people actually find that attractive. But the key with backlinks is that they are from a relevant, authoritative, trustworthy source. And actually, like 5 to 10 really quality backlinks, even you could argue one, is better than 10,000 really bad backlinks. Because they just don't matter. Google doesn't place any relevance from those links. It actually could work to your detriment that you are doing bad SEO. Like, honestly, in Google's guidelines, they actually say don't buy any links. It should be completely natural, that your pages should be so good that people naturally link to them. And, that won't be the case all the time. I still actually do recommend that people buy links to at least a certain extent of, that might even just be local sponsorships. But that still should be kind of the philosophy around your content, that it should be so good, like even the content that we're making here. I hope that this video is so good that people end up sharing it on social media, and they might message me, or they might make a post about it, or they might even make a blog about it and link to it, because all those things are like the same thing. It's all people talking about you, and the way that I talked to you last night about like the different kinds of authorship, that's people talking about you. So a backlink is kind of just the furthest extent of that, because it's really hard to acquire a great backlink from a great company. So now, sorry, I kind of missed the question. So yeah, what kind of backlinks are most valuable? So I'd argue one of the most valuable ones is local links. So that is, and I first talked about trust and authority, but part of that also plays into relevance. So same thing with the internal linking, which we talked about in another episode, that when you internally linked to other pages that are similar, that shows relevance, that this is clearly, this company clearly does pest control in Illinois, and they serve all of these different cities in Illinois. If you also get backlinks from different companies in Illinois, and ideally that might be home service companies, then that is kind of an affirmation that you are a home service company in Illinois. And not only that you are one, but that you are a trustworthy one, because it's hard to get a backlink. When you get backlinks, especially the more authoritative and trustworthy companies, then that is a signal to Google like, dang, this has to be somebody. The same way, you have someone on a podcast, or you co-create a book with someone. Like, it is a vote of confidence when you link to someone, when you have them on a podcast, any of these different signals. So we really like to prioritize local links. We've seen those work tremendously. And then outside of that, we ideally want some authoritative links as well. So it shouldn't be all local. We like to get a good mix there. So authoritative links should also be somewhat niche relevant. So ideally, a great one would be like PCT magazine, or anything regarding pest control, but maybe it's a, pest control product instead, because ideally it's, it's not a competitor. But maybe you have a pest control company in California, and you have a buddy who has a pest control company in Florida. Why not link to each other? Because you guys both own pest control companies. Those are both super relevant links. And, if they have a lot of SEO power, that would be super helpful for your website and ranking.
Yeah. Even talking about the backlinks of buying them, I see that quite a bit of, I bought 20,000, I bought 30,000 links for XYZ price. And I'm like, oh no.
No, it ruins you.
Yeah. Yep. Next question for you, Danny, is which outreach methods effectively secure the backlinks?
Yeah, this is actually a really good question, because most people can't do this. Most people don't even really get to this stage. So one of the ways that we like to get those local links I was talking about was reaching out to local sponsorships / donations / charities. So there are plenty of these kinds of organizations that will allow you to become a sponsor, and that the result of that, of you sponsoring them or you donating, might be a social post about you. They might put your logo on, their banner at their event for a little bit, or they might give you a link on their site. And that's ultimately what we're looking for. But really, like when we're talking about legitimate off-page SEO, building backlinks, a big part of that is PR. So when, I actually heard someone talk about this at Pest World, that, we have, I don't know, there was one of the biggest companies in PR, and they're talking that, their company name is everywhere, and, they sponsor the local baseball team and everything. And I actually didn't get to ask them this question because, we ran out of time, but I wanted to ask, are you getting links from this though? Because that is the full circle. If we could get those links from local companies in the area that people trust, and a lot of these, local sponsorships actually have a good amount of SEO power, and they're obviously local, that if we can get some links from those, that would be huge. So in terms of actually reaching out to those, first you have to identify them, which you can do a search of Chicago sponsorship, Chicago donations, whatever. Find those sites. A lot of them will have a contact form, or at least some kind of contact information. And they might even have some kind of packages already fleshed out of hey, you can pay $500 for a link on our site. And it's boom, okay, you already know. And you can just either buy it right there, or you can message them and say, hey, I'm interested, I want to buy the link. Or a lot of them will just offer some kind of social post, and that will be it. But we do want to get the link here if we're really trying to boost our SEO here. So you want to go to that contact form, you want to message these people, and you can say something pretty nice, just hey, I was looking to donate to your company. I really believe in the cause, or whatever. It's for handicapped people or for whatever. Really love the cause, would love to get involved. I have a pest control company in town, would love to help out. I saw that you guys have, different packages on different things. I was wondering if you guys provide any opportunities, regarding your website. So, you can kind of just say something nice there. Don't directly say hey, can we get a backlink? And how much does a backlink cost? You want to don't be too aggressive, but they know any website opportunities, that they know what that means. A lot of these people will respond, because this is their whole thing is getting donations and sponsorships. And then you can kind of go from there. And depending on the power of their site, depending on how local they are and such, then it might make sense to pay up to, if they are a really authoritative site, it would make sense to pay $1,000 for a link.
Yeah.
But less authoritative, smaller company, maybe $200 to $300. It depends.
Good stuff. The next question for you is what backlink strategies are considered low quality versus more risky?
Yeah, definitely. So a good general principle here is that the harder a backlink is to get, the better it is. So the ones that are super easy. Yeah, exactly. That's part of it. So the ones that are super easy, the ones that you can just click a button and buy 100,000, those aren't quality links. So again, that's a good general principle. If it's really easy to get, it's probably not that good. the very good ones are probably going to be expensive. And then in terms of the ones that are actually risky, overall, like buying those low quality links is going to be risky. Google doesn't like seeing that, especially if they're not relevant or authoritative in any way. So if you are a pest control owner and you buy a ton of links, and let's say those links are for, I don't know, like, buying and selling tables. It's like, and also the site was built yesterday, and they've also given links to 100,000 other sites. Like, what, how is this relevant at all? Like, this makes us doubt you more, because Google is looking at all the things that you're doing. So also, if you have like a ton of AI generated pages on your site, it's not only that those won't rank, but it's actually that Google's like, I trust you less, because they're looking at every single thing you're doing, even the backlinks, because Google knows, that they weren't born yesterday. They've been around for a while, and now they have all of these AI bots to assess what's going on with your site, and all the backlinks coming in and such. So they can see very clearly if you are doing some scammy, risky things, and all of the other people that are doing scammy, risky things too. So really beware of buying like those bulk packages of links. Really, for clients, we just aim to build like 3 to 5 really quality links every month.
Good. And the last question for you, Danny, is how can you measure the backlink quality and the progress of those?
Yeah, that's a tough question, and I don't necessarily have an answer. That's one, because SEO takes time, right? Mm-hmm. So we can measure that on a longer time frame, but that's not something that's going to happen right away. So honestly, you need to hire an SEO person that you trust, or an SEO agency that you trust, and they will quantify this for you, but it's not going to be like, something like Facebook ads where, you're making money for every dollar you spent. Like, no, and really, again, you need to start thinking about backlinks more like PR. Like, this is a branding opportunity. We are building our reputation. We are going to pay, $500, $1,000, whatever for this link. And we might not get any results from it for 3 months, 6 months, but this is going to be something that is long-term, that is going to build our reputation and authority. So there's not like necessarily a, certain measurement or like KPIs to track, but like overall, you need someone that you can trust that is in charge of these things, that has you, still building a good amount of backlinks, not just like only building the free ones or only building the cheap ones. This definitely needs to be part of your SEO strategy.
Yep. On a scale of importance, Danny, like from 1 to 10 on SEO ranking, like where would backlinks be in the ranking system of SEO as a total?
Okay, that's a tough one. So I'll reframe this, and the reframe is SEO is a game of competition. Mm-hmm. So it's not so much of like how important this thing or the other is, but it's more so, are you better than the competition or not? Mm-hmm. So it's, and that goes for every aspect of SEO. So really, you could actually measure your competition instead and see, okay, let's say, your top 3 competitors, they're all, a 5 out of 10 on on-page SEO, a 5 out of 10 on technical SEO, a 5 out of 10 on off-page SEO. Then you should ideally be a 6 out of 10 on all 3 of those or better. So it's not like you have to be perfect. You don't have to totally crush it, but I'm glad you actually mentioned this, because like this is the overall concept of SEO, that like you don't have to be perfect and you can't be perfect, but like we need to take a look at the competition and just do better than that. So supposedly, hypothetically, if your competition isn't building any backlinks, then you might not even need to. Mm-hmm. But if they're building a lot of backlinks, and a lot of companies are starting to, then you probably need to.
That's really important. Now, last thing is this something that you would suggest someone finds an agency to do, or would you suggest it's something that they could learn? Because this does get a lot more technical when we're talking the backlink side of things. So I guess what do you think as far as that goes?
I think you have to hire an agency or hire an SEO person, VA, whatever. All this stuff gets like really complex. And this is just one component of SEO. There's so many different things that go into it. So generally, I would recommend finding a trusted expert, but you still should have some baseline knowledge, which, if you're watching this video, then good on you. You're building this baseline knowledge now. but I don't think it should be something that you do yourself. Like, you should have an understanding of SEO and of PR, but you should have a PR person. You should have an SEO person. Like, you should delegate these things, especially because they're so complex. And honestly, like, I'll be completely transparent. SEO is something that you should invest in once you have more capital, because it is a longer term strategy. So when you're just starting out, if you're even under 500K a year, then do more of the short term strategies that are going to generate revenue basically right away. Like the Facebook ads, we can see that we're getting customers from, where we have like a $100 cost per customer or whatever, or local service ads or Google ads, versus SEO. It might take 3 months to get results. If you're starting from zero, it might take 12 months to get results. So
it's not instant return.
Yeah, no, it's not instant. So I don't think that's something you should do as a beginning pest control owner. I think you should focus on more of those short-term tasks. And as you get to, sub-million, $1 million+ a year, then start looking at SEO. And you're a busy person at that point. You're hiring someone to do that for you.
Mm-hmm. That's really good that you said that, because just like we spoke in previous videos, is some of the things that you pest control owners can focus on are Google My Business Profile, getting reviews, making sure you're replying to the reviews. You can do a few things on the website, but past that, you might want to consider hiring an agency to do all this. It is pretty technical. But just like Danny was saying in the beginning, like, you need to be focusing on the things that you can focus on that brings pretty quick returns. Like, if we're going to be spending money on advertising, we want it to get a pretty quick return. But for those of you watching who are doing a few $1 million a year and you don't have some of these things dialed in, you probably should.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And that's like, when you start getting that big, that's when you really start looking more into branding, into SEO, into PR, and all of those things. And that's really when you should. And you've built a successful company. You have a lot of employees. There's a lot of content you can gather, and you have the capital to pursue that. So that's when you really get into it.
Yep. Well, great stuff, Danny. I appreciate you answering those questions for me here today. And we'll see you guys on the next video.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Jake.
Thanks, Danny.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. I know that we really appreciate you guys taking the time with us here. If you guys have any questions, comments, make sure to throw them in the comment section below. And if you found this valuable, make sure to like and subscribe, and to share with your friends who maybe own a service business themselves. Again, our goal here is to provide as much value to you guys as possible. Also, if you guys are really looking to grow your business, make sure to check out our website at pestcontrolmillionaires.com. We'll have the link below in the bio, and we'll also have a free school group for you guys to check out. So thanks for watching.